Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here once again for another One Piece chapter review. Let's see, I don't know how long I'll be for the chapter, as for the last few videos I've been rather long in my reviews, so either just listen in or just, let's see, if you watch live or just listen to it in the background or watch later. But yeah, either way. Hopefully it won't be too long, because given how late it is here in the UK and how last time I nearly fell asleep and all that stuff, and ended up talking a bit of my personal life, though I at least talked about, more like I talked about how I was catching the trains, though I think, listening back to my review, I think I was talking about how I was watching that one clip about, everyone reacting to Sabo. When waiting for the trains or something. So, yeah, I think that was my last point there. But anyway, on to the actual chapter. But before we begin, we'll do the colored page spread, which is a movie tie-in to the One Piece film Red, in which we see Luffy in like some sort of leather jacket, getting his hat on in a serious manner, with Shanks behind him to the cross. They're both looking at the other side, with Uta in the middle in this more full appearance. She's singing. It appears that she's crying as well. It appears to be like her singing arena and all that stuff. I'm finding this from the wiki page, as they don't have it on Viz, but yeah. Just wanted to make a comment on that. It seems nice. But anyway, on to the actual chapter, 1055, the new era, in which we cut to like the citizens of Wano celebrating before Yamato telling Momonosuke telling Yamato not to strike against the Admiral and all that stuff, even though he's getting hit, even though he's getting whooped to the floor and all that stuff. Let's see. And you see Raizo then attempt to use his Ninja Scroll Fireball jutsu and all that stuff. And at first it looks like it's hurting him, but it's like he's actually joked. But the Admiral is Maki, I think, if I'm recalling from... I shouldn't forget the names of these Admirals so quickly. Ends up saying that has no effect on me. Such an obvious weakness has no effect on a Navy Admiral and all that stuff. Let's see. Even though the weakness is pretty obvious. So he then uses one of his tree finds, which I think may or may not be imbued with hockey. I cannot tell. Oh, I might actually I can tell. It's because it looks like it's the black. Let's see. Hold on, Mr. Navy and One Piece. Akamari or Admiral Greenville. Or Ryuku. Yeah, so many names, but I'm just going to call him Admiral Greenville just because it's easier. Sorry about that. Yeah, he implies one of his root finds into like Raizo and sucks him dry like he did King and Queen, or more particularly Queen, as Raizo's become so skinny as a result and all that stuff. But the others worried, Kawamatsu trying to cut a few more vines. And then you see some of the other scabbards do it, but they all eventually get grabbed as well. We see first Kyosho, Kawamatsu, and Cat Viper, to be for like the example. And Shinobu's also there. Anyway, the cutscene cuts the Under Palace with the Kokusaki secret chambers and all that stuff. And behind, and below, where they're walking down the steps, followed by Law, who managed to sniff Robin out, as she figured that she's up to something since she wasn't with everyone else and all that stuff. So, as CEO Suyakia is telling them to watch their steps and all that stuff, and goes on about how he never really told Kaido and Orochi about this location, but due to the fact that Jack, the lead performer, was a fisherman, they was able to discover the Poneglyph really quickly. Robin wondering why that has to be the case and all that stuff, as they're about closer to see for themselves. As Law's just wondering how long it'll take, which he says like this is several centuries back. And Robin and Law see a panel in which they can see a light coming through, some sort of glass block at the end of the tunnel, which they go to, which let's see, which can show them the sea floor with Robin and Law pushing in between each other to see. And then they see, to their surprise, another version of Wano at the bottom of the sea and all that stuff. As Sayuki is telling them that was one about 800 years ago, a much different one, with them questioning what it means. Let's see. No, that's all he can tell, as he doesn't quite know whatever happened in the past to make it that way. Let's see. Though he does tell them that he believes that there was once a Wano. But Robin is able to tell that it's not seawater, as Sayuki ends up explaining how Wano once had an enormous Fuji mountain and all that stuff, as we see from the panel and all that stuff. But at some point, great walls grew around the island, and it was filled up with rainwater, which caused the town to flood and eventually cover it all. Eventually forced people to flee, and resulted in creating new land on the side of the mountain in order to create a new country, which, from what we see from the pages, is a much smaller compared to the old Wano, compared to the one today, as Robin talks about that. But anyway, he finally shows them where the road poneglyph is, with Robin commenting that this is the third one. One more, and we'll be able to get to Earth Tail. Oh boy, I'm getting yawning again, so I better not this too quick. And apparently they're now up in the high up in the caves of the foot of Fuji, the mountain and all that stuff, where Old Wano is. Let's see, and it's apparently further down the earth. So probably not as close to where Kaido and Big Mom are currently. No, actually, talking further down where they are right now will probably be where the ancient weapon Pluton is resting. Though he has never seen it himself, and reveals that in order to revive Pluton, the walls need to be torn down. So, in other words, Litty opening Wano's natural defenses and all that stuff will unleash the ancient weapon onto the world and all that stuff. Which shocks Robin the fact that this is the case. And one of the questions, why on earth would Odin want to do such a thing? Now, Sayuki ends up... Let's see, Sayuki... I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. Let's see, ends up telling how what he's able to tell was what's been passed down from the Shogun line, within the Kosuke line and all that stuff. And he has no idea what Loden had learned during his travels abroad to answer, as we cut back to Killer celebrating with Law's three main crewmates as they dance with geishas and all that stuff. And then we cut to the capital again with Admiral Greenbull or Akaniki saying how mere humans cannot withstand his nature powers and all that stuff. Saying about how, if they did not quite understand this point, Kaido was the only reason that was keeping him from coming here much sooner and all that stuff. Let's see, even though it's sad to admit, despite how horrible Kaido's rule is, it was a dead giant that kept any enemies away from the land of Wano. Well, with the exception, of course, the Straw Hats and, of course, Big Mom. As he's captured all the scabbards and probably starting to drain some of them, like Raizo, though that's self-only really Shinobu, from what I can tell from the next chapter. And damn it, I've just spoiled the review. I won't get into more details then, and I should really try and finish this up before I yawn too much. Saying that bring him Straw Hat Luffy, and once he's taken his head, he'll leave. With Yamato saying that they can rely on Luffy and the others to try and take this guy down, but Momonosuke refuses as he can't keep asking for help. Not Yamato's either, despite Yamato being trapped in Onigashima for so long and all that stuff, and this is his or her chance to be freed. I'm getting confused about what Yamato's gender is again. And he wants to give Yamato a proper send-off. And he doesn't want to keep having to rely on Luffy and Zoro to fight their battles and let them rest. As since they're the ones staying in the country, they need to learn to, drive the enemy off and all that stuff, which, you get like the Admiral looking down with contempt, but you got like Genjuro, smiling at Momonosuke's words. And it goes about how if we keep asking for those who are about to leave for help, we'll never ever be able to defend them for itself. With Yamato finally understanding Momonosuke's words and all that stuff. As Momonosuke starts to say, "Be gone, forest," and all that stuff. With the Admiral mocking, Momonosuke for sounding like a little squirt, which he probably doesn't realize that Momonosuke is a kid, mentally at least, even though not figuratively, mocking how any dragon could sound so effective. But as Momonosuke kept saying "be gone," he finally fires a dragon breath against the Admiral, blasting right through him, clearly showing some pain towards him and all that stuff. With him, Momonosuke finally happy that it came out, the dragon breath. The others, thanking Momonosuke's name as they drop. With Denjiro being impressed, and I think Dog Storm saying that it looked like Kaido's power, though it might still be Denjiro. I'll just have to wait until this anime finally gets to this next year. With him then firing another shot at the Admiral, which he's not prepared for, and still gets that, which means he gets damaged again. With Yamato saying that, as he now saying how Momonosuke is incredible, and it seems like he's finally mastered the dragon body, but Kawamatsu's talking about his aim ain't being great. And you see the Admiral being damaged so much that he ends up disintegrating into a little tiny plant and starts to grow and all that stuff, as he ends up saying that he seems like he's saying how that blast would probably burn an entire town and all that stuff. And realizes that Momonosuke means business, so he's going to fight him with his full force now, meaning business and all that stuff. And saying that he's a pitiful replacement to Kaido and he'll skewer him. However, just as he does that, we get an outburst of, Haki and the Conqueror's Haki, which reverts the Admiral back to his, human form, and which kind of shocks him and all that stuff. Realizing that it's the Supreme King's Haki, and realizes that who does it, it's actually the Redhead Pirate, meaning Shanks here. As we cut to Shanks' ship, where one of the officers is probably telling Shanks to cool it, as he's knocking the newer crewmates. From knocking out and making more foam in their mouths and all that stuff. Talking about how he's not accusing the Navy of fighting dirty and all that stuff, but when new shoots have just changed the parting of history and exhausted from their feet and all that stuff, saying that the new members of the new generation that's just had their victory, I guess, and are now resting, thinks that the Admiral's going overboard as he thinks back to young Luffy from the wound from his scar. Momonosuke bonked on the head with Oden crying in the back, with Oden laughing in the background, and Hiyori with their mother Toki. And a brief silhouette figure, what appears to be, which clearly is supposed to be a young Uta, with Shanks now getting angry, asking Admiral if he's afraid of the new era, so move vividly. Aramaki decides to back off, deciding that it's not best to fight Shanks and all that stuff. at least yet anyway, with Yamato celebrating the Navy's fleeing, and Momonosuke crying. Let's see if he's just happy that he's able to do what he's able to do, or realize he didn't quite, was able to get with the guy himself, but either way, probably just crying, just probably crying with relief that the enemy is gone. We go back to like some of the Straw Hats celebrating, such as, Brock, Chopper, Usopp, Frankie. I think maybe Nami there, but I could be wrong. Celebrating, and Toki, Kurus, Hiyori with Toko celebrating with her music and all that stuff. As we see that Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, and Jinbei were waiting outside, ready to fight if need be, but with them commenting that Sanji in particular that they don't need to fight. Zoro complimenting Momo, and Luffy just commenting that the animal's gone and laughing about it, and Jinbei questioning that monstrous hockey, with Luffy saying, realizing that I think it made him think of a familiar face, clearly thinking of Shanks, as the last panel the redhead pirates leaving Wano, ending the chapter. But first off, before we get into my thoughts and views on this chapter, I just probably want to comment that one thing I'm glad at the last chapter was that Sabo's not becoming an ace and is getting his own storyline thing, though I might have mentioned it, as that was the biggest fear, and it seems like he's got his own thing now, being the symbol of revolution. But now on to the actual chapter itself, though first I just need to get a quick drink break. First of all, I do like how Momonosuke, reasons for having Yamato not join the fight. He wants to try. Wants him and his scabbards at the very least to try and take these admiral level threats and Yonko threats down from now on, and not be assisted by those who have helped them in the past, as why he wants them to rest and be free and all that stuff. He realizes that even though that they were such a great help in taking down Kaido, and they probably never done without them and all that stuff, he realizes that he needs to get strong himself in order to prevent future enemies from coming in, and cannot always rely on Luffy. Luffy and the others, because they're not going to be here all the time, because they got their own pirate adventures. So he wants to take care of this and let them enjoy themselves, particularly, as they try and deal with this enemy. And I do like how Yamato seems to understand once the explanation has been made clear and all that stuff. So there's that. Even though he's getting his butt whooped by Admiral right now. But speaking of which, I do like how, despite the fact that fire is a pretty obvious weakness, and probably no doubt it probably would have done some damage to him, which is probably one of the reasons why Sabo was able to probably succeed as much as he did against Aomaki when he was fighting or Admiral Ryokiguri. I can't really say the name properly. When he was trying to rescue Kuma, because Sabo, being a very strong Loki Devil Fruit user, having the same power as Ace and all that stuff, was probably able to easily damage him, even though it seems that, despite the weakness, he's trained himself to probably resist fire, at least, or having ways to, countering it and all that stuff. But at the very least, due to his training as a Navy Admiral, the regular fire attacks won't work on him, at least, which I assume would have been a pretty obvious weakness. But yeah. And to show that, he ends up absorbing Raizo and all that stuff. Now, what Raizo will end up looking like by the end of it, I do not know. But at the very least, he seems to be drained the sky and all that stuff, and sucked dry, like Queen and all that stuff. Which I'm assuming that, given how the Admiral has probably left, which we'll get to later, I think he, at the very least, has probably taken quite a lot of the Beast pirates and Udon backed with him to Navy HQ and all that stuff, and they'll be probably sent to a place like Imperial Down, but that's just my guess. But yeah, but it's even though some people have been dissing the admirals lately, I will say at least one impressive feat that Maki's done is how he's able to grab and dispose of like the 9 scabbards, probably much quicker than Kaido did. Though granted, not all 9 scabbards are here and all that stuff, but still. Anyway, I do like how Law ends up with realizing that Robin's being gone and got suspicious and decide to follow her and all that stuff. So I'd like how, let's see, you both have Robin and Law seeing where this road polyglyph is, because let's see, Law's gotten an interest in finding the road polyglyphs to find out more about the Void Century and why his family working with the Will of D are so persistent on what's their fate and all that stuff in the world of One Piece and why they have that symbol and all that stuff. So yeah, I like that. But yeah. Anyway, I do find it interesting that the reason why Kaido ended up finding the road poneglyph in the end is the fact that Jack was able to, being a fisherman, and granted, I'm not sure how early or late it was into Jack's career, because I think it was like 8 by the time of like the Elden Fritzy death and all that stuff, or at least somewhere along, or at least 38. At least he was 18, either 8 or 18 when he was like 20 years ago. I haven't really checked Jack's age, but clearly, at the very least, it seems that he was able to swim and find the poneglyph before he got like his Devil Fruit abilities and all that stuff. So there's that. Or he was able to, just being a fisherman, even though he had the abilities, he was able to sink in and find it. Probably with a little help, but still. But yeah. But the end up being the main secret is the fact that Wano was actually a much bigger country with land and with a much bigger mountain, but due to the building of the walls, rain poured in and flooded the place, so eventually it fully covered the whole thing with sea life and all that stuff, and forcing them to edit probably mount the mountain at the top and all that stuff, and let's see, covering all that, no space for all that rainwater to go, covering the whole thing, though the rainwater's allowed the old Wano to preserve and all that stuff, which makes me think that once the Wano walls are broken, all that water will flood, and the citizens of Wano will probably return to their old 800-year homes and all that stuff, or the original country, if you will. But yeah. And the reason, and apparently, I do like that. Apparently, the reason in order to unlock Waken Pluton that's here on Wano, you have to break down the walls and all that stuff. In order to, by opening up Wano, Pluton will be unleashed in the world. So it's like, this is probably the main reason why Wano has had its borders closed for so long, is the fact that, that's to prevent the ancient weapon from being unleashed into the world until the right timing, which, Robin, I do like how Robin questions why Odin would want it and all that stuff, but Sayuki, only knowing that what's being passed down, doesn't know, nor what Odin was told for them to say, okay, this needs to change, the borders need to open and all that stuff. So yeah. It acts as a bit of a deterrent. And all that stuff. But yeah. Oh, I forgot to actually mention to comment that since I'm seeing a bit of the Straw Hats in this chapter, is that nice to see them, because last chapter we didn't really get the Straw Hats except for Luffy in a flashback. It was kind of like a in-between acts chapter, if you will, but still on one though. But yeah. But yeah. But anyway, but talking about natural deterrent, the Admiral comments that if it wasn't for Kaido here, I wouldn't have come, but now he's gone. I'm coming here to try and claim Straw Hat's head, which seems to imply that at the very least Kaido was strong enough to keep an Admiral from coming in here and all that stuff. And even though Kaido's been defeated by Luffy, he's confident enough that he's able to, take Luffy down. I guess he assumes that Luffy, Law, and Kid all took Kaido down together with Big Mom as a team rather than individually, even though that was more the case with Luffy compared to Law and Kid with a Big Mom. So yeah. But yeah. But anyway, I do like how during this fight, Momonosuke, in his attempt to try and become stronger and stronger to prevent and get the animal to leave and all that stuff, he finally awakens Kaido's dragon form's blast breath and does some serious damage to the Admiral, which much great progress, though he still is unable to fully control it, which, yeah. Let's see, I don't expect him to beat an Admiral one-on-one anytime soon. He's not mental. Well, he might be physically. He's not mentally prepared for something like that, given the previous torture methods in which Momonosuke has probably experienced and all that stuff. Sorry. But yeah, though granted, even though the animal's being clearly damaged, that he was due to a small plant. He was not really taking things seriously, and now he's ready to go full on and all that stuff. So just before that happens, we get probably the most impressive display of Conqueror's Haki, in which Shanks does it through the air, straight to where the Admiral is to communicate with him, and even knock out some of the new members of his crew and all that stuff, telling him that, while the Admirals are technically not fighting dirty. He's still not happy about him and other scroungers taking advantage of the next generation and all that stuff. As he thinks to Luffy, Momonosuke, Hiyori, and Uta, which this chapter confirms that yes, Uta is canon, though the film itself is not canon. And there's quite a lot of different canon elements to the film that are not actually canon and all that stuff. So by the time to get to the homunculi to fight each other, this will be interesting. And telling them Luffy and the others to come on and all that stuff. But yeah, Shanks is angry and refuses to let the Admirals ruin this new era. But yeah, Uta, like I said, and Uta is among them, so in canon and all that stuff, though granted, this is probably more tie-ins to the film, in which I have heard that apparently Oda has rushed a few things so that the end of Wano can tie with the chapter to the movie and all that stuff, in which one hand has lacked quick pacing, but has made us probably skip a few things which some fans are not happy about. But yeah, the Admiral flees, and everyone is celebrating again. Though it's revealed, I do like it's revealed how Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, and Jinbei, Luffy, the top bit, the monstrous trio, and Jinbei, or Luffy and his new monstrous top fighters, if you will, or monstrous foursome. But actually, that came out wrong. Sorry. They'll be waiting to probably come in if they needed help, but decide to leave things to try and take out the enemy themselves and all that stuff, because probably they're listening to what Momonosuke wants to be strong enough to look after themselves and all that stuff. But but I do like how they're able to particularly Jinbei and Luffy are able to identify that it was probably Shanks, with Luffy probably realizing that he's coming closer and closer to meeting Shanks one day, now given his journey, and especially as we're heading towards the final saga and all that stuff. So there's that. Overall, it's a very pretty good chapter, at least. We get more of the fight against the Admiral, in which he easily dispatches the 9 scabbards, or at least the ones that were there, and even drained Raizo of his liquids and all that, of his, like, nutrients and all that stuff. Momonosuke is resolved to why not letting Yamato intervene in the fight, as he needs to try and take care of any future enemy themselves. Ryuko probably confirming that the Admirals are, at least he is not strong enough to take on a Yonko, though whether or not he'll be better teaming up with a Yonko or another Yonko which he fights Big Mom, but well, she's being defeated by Killer Lord now, so ex-Emperor. But yeah, I do like he's able to to use the blast breath that Kaido was, and how he was struggling in the last chapter, but still needs to control it and all that stuff. Even when the Admiral, the police officer is getting serious against, Krillin and his friends during the Tournament of Power and all that stuff, but let me try and lost my thought there. I'm getting tired again. I really stop streaming this late. Hold on, let me just oops, wrong page, but yeah. But yeah, Shanks' hockey is so impressive that the Admiral feels it so pretty well. He's probably stronger than Scabbards, he's clearly, and all that stuff, no match for, at least not by himself, taking on a Yonko. And let's see, but yeah, Shanks has the most impressive display, knocking out a few crew members. It seems to be, from what we get from all the spoilers from the film Red, he is arguably the most impressive hockey user around. But yeah, but I really like that part where he's dead set on saying this is the new era and all that stuff. Don't interfere, and drives him off. But yeah, I was commenting Luffy and Sanji and Jinbei, elite officers, if you will, for the Straw Hats, or what the closest thing they'll get. With Luffy deciding, but Luffy more gives them occupations really, like cook, swordsman, and witty helmsman. But they were ready to jump in, but due to Momonosuke's bravery and all that stuff, and Shanks' arrival, they hadn't need to, and they're just happy about the whole thing, and So yeah, overall, I give this chapter a 9 out of 10, a near perfect chapter. Probably would have liked a few more things there, here and there. Let's see, but and the discovery of that opening along with borders will, at least Pluton and all that stuff. But see hints about what will happen in the future chapters, like one of those borders being open, and then Pluton will finally emerge for its purpose. Shanks' display of hockey, and Momonosuke progressing as a character and all that stuff. Overall, good chapter. I enjoyed it. Thank you for those who came in and joined me, even though I probably repeated myself a few times towards the end here, or those who listen in later. And finally, I've managed to get the video much quicker, at least. But yeah, I've probably said everything I can, and hopefully I'll be able to review the next chapter. But of course, got a My Hero review to do with a couple of friends. But either way, I am Blue Stars Saber, signing off. Thank you for joining me, everyone, and goodbye. Have a lovely day.